I'll probably start a couple minutes after the top of the hour, just for people to show up.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sergio.
Hey.
Sergio.
Okay, we're going to give a couple more minutes for people to show up. Where'd everybody go? Oh, okay. Link there for some minutes. Work on those. Give it a couple more minutes here. I will note we didn't get a lot of responders to our poll to have a session, so we might only get Niels. But I think we should give him a chance. I know it's a little earlier in his time zone. All right, here we go. We got one more person. That's what I was hoping for. We'll start at 4 after here. All right, well, that's 4 after there. Let's get started. Hopefully other people will straggle in as we progress here. We have an hour. Hey, welcome to a Wish Interim meeting. Thanks for coming. This is the IETF note well, because this is an official meeting. This is the policies and procedures you need to follow. Got any questions about this, you can ask me. I can help direct you in the right place if you need to know more information. A lot of the patent policy stuff is pretty straightforward. If you know something, say something, you need to submit it. This is the note really well. This is basically about keeping it professional. And if anybody has any feelings about how they get treated, whether it's badly or good, let me know. We can send you in the right direction to figure out how to make you all give us smiley faces. Meeting tips. This meeting is being recorded. Unless you're really presenting, probably don't need to be running video, but there are so few of us, it might not matter. We do suggest that you use a headset if you're someplace where it's noisy to kind of keep the sound down. Next, agenda is pretty straightforward. We're just going to try to go through any open issues that we have in WEP and figure out if we can get some direction there and try to get this document done. So without further ado, do you want me to share my screen, Dan, or do you want to do it? I can do it. Okay. Let me share my screen. Do I want to share screen? Yes, I want to share screen. Yes, I want to pick a window. How about that one? Share this window. All right. You should be seeing my screen now. Oh, there we go. Delicious. It's working. It's mostly because now I know how to press the buttons.
Oh, you're now muted.
Sorry, I see that we have no open pull requests. So I guess the question is, where would you like to start on the issues list?
I guess the newest one, Lorenzo opened, number 39. So I think in short, Lorenzo can correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, he was implementing the new version of WEP that supports server-side offers, and came into some conditions where he wasn't sure, based off of the current draft, how things should be dealt with, due to error codes, etc. So I think this is just a case of, we already knew that error codes, picking up particular error codes was going to be something that we needed to look at properly. The version of the draft that we released very recently was, yeah, basically we said we're not sure about these error codes. So yeah, it just needs to, we need to, like, as people start implementing server sent offers, it's a nice way of being able to figure out, well, I think we put in 406, I think, whether or not they need changing, multiple need changing, etc. So I think this is just a case of, this needs done, and ultimately needs, yeah, until you start actually implementing it, we probably won't figure that out. Lorenzo was just the first one to do it.
Should we raise hands, or just as we are few, just talk directly?
Pardon, Sergio? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that just if we should be raising hands to talk, or just
Yeah, that works. I'm trying to take notes too, so it's kind of hard for me to see the queue and do that as well. So yeah, just jump in.
Okay. During the HTTP directory review, they discouraged the usage of fixed error codes into the spec, and just told us that we cannot like have a loud release of error codes match to complete errors. So because at the end this is not HTTP compliant, because in this case the server could also return a 400 error. It was a bit of a challenge to try to accommodate that into the WIP draft, trying to provide examples of what the use case, the error codes could be returned, but we cannot mandate or just say that if the server does not support the client-side offers or the server-side offers, we cannot just fix an error code, because there could be a lot of it could be returned by other things, or even different error codes can be returned according to HTTP. They recommend us that if we want to provide, there's also a chapter in the WIP spec regarding that, that if we want to have like this list of error codes, we will have to use the problem statement body in the response.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the pain that you went through to get HTTP people happy with WIP. So it's definitely something we need to take a look at. In this case, we can't use the response body because the response body would include the offer, right? So yeah, that's definitely something we need to take a look at.
Well, if it is an error code, it should not have the offer. It should have an error code with a different content type, and the problem statement body. But again, I think that the most that we can do is recommend, or it's good use for A6, but for example, a 400 or for any other semantically correct error could be also returned in even a generic 400 error.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to. I think that this general issue around error codes and how we deal with, well, whether or not it should even be an error code, right? Whether or not it should be a like technically the request hasn't failed. So like, should it actually be a 2x but not be a created because we didn't actually create anything? We said yes. We said so. Yeah, this whole thing needs better looked at. So I want to. My plan was to kind of go through the rest of the issues that were marked as required before this meeting, but summer got me. So my new plan is within the next 2 weeks to go through the rest and clear those down after this meeting ahead of is it Montreal? Ahead of Montreal. So yeah, this one I think is the biggest one. The rest of them and backporting. If we go back to number 36, backporting the RFC editor changes from WIP, I think they're going to be the biggest ones. Like Sergio just said, it was a lot of effort to get the HTTP people happy with WIP. So we should take all the learnings that were done from WIP and move them over. And maybe we should move them over and then we should address number 39, because then that might drive the answer to 39. Other ones, yeah, all the ones with required next to them were the ones that we were going to try and fit in ahead of Montreal. Whether or not that's possible, I don't know. The client, number 29, the client must silently ignore unknown fields in the event. I think this is an important one. It's very small in the grand scheme of things, and it gives people flexibility. So this one just needs to be added in. There just needs to be a bit of language in the draft that says that yeah, things should be ignored if it's not in the unknown, if it's unknown.
Hey Dan, would it make sense just to do a quick vote from everybody to see if like we approve of that? Go on go one by one, and then at least you've got the ones, you figure out which ones have contentions, you know?
Yeah, I'm open to anything. I know which ones are important to me, but it's not my opinion that matters anymore. The consensus matters, right? Which is why we're now in the position we are. So yeah, number 39 has to happen. Number 36 has to happen. This 29 doesn't have to happen, but I think it's such a small change that opens up functionality for people to be able to do their own thing. So 29 is important. I don't know what other people think.
Which sounds good to me. I saw Sergio also had a comment, said he approved.
Yeah.
Also regarding the events, I think that we already agreed in a previous meeting that we were going to remove it from the main spec.
It's so tiny that like we should just do it. It literally requires one line, right?
No, I mean the one is not the. I mean, I was meaning the number 20. And
oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, both events. Yeah, in probably the whole events is. Yeah, it was. We can reopen the discussion if we want to keep it in the spec or not. But I think that one of the previous 2 meetings ago or 3, we agreed that we were going to remove it from the spec and just move it to a different draft, just to prevent the discussions on the data channels and the events to just stop the spec to be releases.
Yes, I remember now. Because we talked about number 19 doing server sent, doing the events via the data channel instead of doing them via server sent events. I remember now. Again, we kind of get into like we've got a bit of time ahead of Montreal. Like as long as I get a move on and do stuff in the next 2 weeks or so, then I think we've got time to be able to do this ahead of Montreal. And I think it would be a real shame if V1 didn't have the whole event part of it, as events are important. So I agree, we should keep it simple and try and keep everything, like get something out for V1, but that V1 has to be full, right? It has to have stuff that we actually all want. And I think from what I've read and from what I've heard, people are using server sent the whole event framework in WEP quite a bit. So it seems silly to remove that from V1 and to just move the whole thing. Maybe we want to make it so that maybe we want to what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe we want to make it so that it's extendable in something separate, so that this data channel stuff can be put into that. But for us to take the whole thing out seems unnecessary.
I don't disagree with that, but there was a previous consensus, so I think that we need to run it again through the mailing list to see what other people think.
Okay. Right, I'm going to comment on number 19, which is the one about data channels, to just say we're going to rerun this through the mailing list. We run through mailing list to see what consensus is on keeping this in V1, and then I'll label it with requires consensus, and in that way we know what we're doing when we come back to these. So I'll also label the client must silently ignore with requires consensus and depends on number 20. Okay. So we're definitely doing 39, definitely doing 36. 29 and 20, we'll go back to the mailing list and see what people's opinions are. And it depends on 19 as well. Depends on 19. Add that so that I know the things are linked. And requires consensus for number 20. There we go. Right. So that's 29, 20, and 19, and they're all kind of need to be combined into an events subtask. That leaves us onto 15. Discoverability as a web URL. Yeah, for a long time, we've said that this is really required for V1 so that we actually get adoption within players. But the big question is how. Like, I think at the last meeting, we had people from the room who knew HTTP, how to go and do this. And there wasn't much consensus in the room on how to do it. I'm still of the belief that this is vitally important to get something, whether or not it's the right something or not. I don't know, but we need to get something. Otherwise, players can't look at a URL and know that it's a web URL. So I think this is a required thing. It's just figuring out how that required thing works, and whether or not the HTTP team, whether or not they'd be happy with it. We heard a number of views in the last meeting about like making a new protocol URI, like, and how that's not such a bad thing. Adding an extension to the end of the URL, that's not such a bad thing. I think we've just got to. I think everyone agrees that this is vitally important. I think we actually just need to go, this is what we're going to do, and try it. And probably the simplest way of doing that is an extension in the URL.
Quick question, Dan, on this. Like, the WIP spec doesn't do this, right? It's just a straight HTTP.
So with WIP, you're right. WIP doesn't have this. It's just HTTP, but you know that it's a WIP URL because you're sending to it. So you've been given that WIP URL by a server, and you know that it's a WIP URL. And so publishing to it is an action that you're making. Whereas for this, like if you put a URL into video.js or something else, it will go off and figure out, is this HLS, is this mock, or is this YouTube, and we're going to play it a very specific way. It needs to be the same with a WIP URL, so that it knows, right, this is WIP, which means I need to go do an offer and expect a potential offer back if the server doesn't support client offers. So I think this is vitally important to get in there. It doesn't exist in WIP, you're right, but I think that's because
it doesn't need to. Yeah.
WIP's I'm taking an action rather than I want to play this URL. How do I play this URL? Understood.
Well, are the two options basically, like, it seems to me, either take the HLS approach where you have an extension like M3U8, or take the RTSP approach where it's, or RTMP where it's a new URL type, right? Or
yeah, I think there's a third option that I thought about, and I've commented about it in a different PR that's now merged, and I think it was basically, I think it was like a halfway house where it was a .web extension, but it actually returned JSON, and then you could then go and that JSON would tell you this is the actual proper web URL that you want to go play, etc. And it wouldn't necessarily, like, it was kind of, it was basically a JSON document to say this is web, this is what you go do with it. But that was when we were talking about having like two modes, server sent offer mode and client offer mode. We got away from that, and we now just have, you know, this one diagram of this is how it works. So yeah, it probably does go back to having an extension like HLS, or going down like the RTMP route.
yeah, sorry to jump in. It seems like we have not too many participants, so we can be kind of ad hoc about it. But to me, it seems like that approach is just going to increase the number of round trips necessary to make a connection, right? So that seems like a bad idea from that perspective.
Yeah, I think I was thinking back when we had the two different modes. I think that's what I was.
Yeah,
thinking.
no, it makes sense that you came up with it for that.
Yeah, enabled us to be able to figure out which mode we were after. Mike's in the room.
Yeah, I was just wanting to clarify, like, if you make a naive get to this URL, what is the expected behavior from that? Like, as it currently stands?
I think if we went down this route, you would expect back exactly the same as currently doing a web request.
You get a server offer.
You would. Yes, this is a good point. If you did a. Oh right, yeah, no, you're right. So we currently rely on sending a client offer, which then potentially gets changed into a server offer, right? And that's a post request to a URL. This would be, we'd have to do it as a GET request to somewhere, and then what would you get back? It's a good question. I don't actually have an answer for it right now.
Because so your scenario that you're talking about is like, I've got a player that can play, you know, 4 or 5 different formats. I've been given a URL and told, go play this thing. If I don't know what it is, probably the first thing I'm going to do is a head request, find out how big it is, find out what media type it is, and then based on the headers from that, then I would decide, oh, I know what to do with that media type. I'm going to go look for the header that tells me where the other pieces are. So
is it as simple as allowing a head request and having a header within that response? I can't remember what the rules are off the top of my head.
Yeah, so the response to a head should give you all the same headers that you would get if you made a GET request, but no body.
Right. But we don't support GET on a URL.
By definition, every resource has to implement GET. So you should probably define what that behavior is, even if the behavior is we have no content.
Okay. I mean, so that probably helps things out, right? Then, at the moment, I'd need to go read through the draft. I don't know off the top of my head what that behavior is, but at the moment we do a post. We get back the. We do a post with an offer, we get back an answer, or we get back a server sent offer. So ultimately, we need to define that get behavior, and then we should then kind of utilize a head request, and potentially that get request would give you back content SDP just with a blank SDP or something, and then that would allow the head to know to also pass back the fact that it's SDP, and maybe that's all we need to be able to then decide, for players to be able to decide, this is SDP, which means it's web.
Lorenzo?
Yeah, no, I was just going to chime in and mention the options approach that was listed in the issue as well. But basically, the head idea seems basically pretty much the same thing but better, because it gives more meaning and seems more apt for that. Especially because I guess this is mainly to allow players to figure out programmatically how to handle a URL rather than allowing people to figure out it from a glance. Because basically, I don't like the protocol or the extension idea much. I mean, they may be something that may happen as a standard de facto because people will start appending an extension as a convention or something like this, but it's not something that I bake in the protocol itself. So going for something like options or head does, sorry, an intruder here. So that sounds like a good idea.
Great. I've just added a comment to that to say, let's go down the head route. I'll make a pull request, and then we can get feedback on that pull request. Great. Nice to know the right direction we should go in on that one. Even if someone ends up telling us we're wrong, at least we would have tried something. I think we can skip the mute, unmute extensions, because I think we decided that was going to come afterwards. I think codec negotiation error from memory just needs a bit of language in the draft from memory. To find that if negotiation fails for whatever reason, be it client or this must already be defined in WIP, so we should do the same. And then Sergio says in WIP we didn't allow partial success, so either we had support for all audio and video codecs or it failed. We may want to revisit that for WEP and allow to reject individual M lines. I think we decided in a meeting that it was an all or nothing for V1, and either it was successful or it wasn't. Is that what other people remember? If it is, I'll write it down now so that we're not guessing, and then we can, and then I can alter the language to reflect that. I will take silence as that's fine.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just rereading the issue myself. I guess that the last comment by Sergio is actually quite interesting, because he explains that if we want to allow for optional things in the future, like data channels for server-side events and so on, then in this case we should indeed allow for partial success rather than require a complete success. Because in that case, if you're not interested in events or you don't support data channels or anything like this, then you risk not being able to watch the session at all just because you don't support that. So I guess that we can be a bit more lenient in WEP as opposed to WIP, I guess.
This could prevent, for example, imagine that we enable support for that events via data channel in the future, but it just send a web request to a server that it is not supporting data channel, it will fail, and instead of just registering the events. So maybe we can do an exception with non-media lines for data channels and keep there are nothing for the audio and video in lines, but say that data channels can be rejected for future extensibility without without rejecting the whole offer or something like that.
Okay, so for V1, I'm just rereading this. So for V1, what do we want to do? We want to allow partials.
Not sure if full parcels, but at least stating that. If,
At least media partials, let's say.
Yeah. That at least we can, and that data channels can be dropped without rejecting the whole offer.
Data channels can be dropped. So I'm just writing for V1, let's allow media partials. Data channels can be dropped from the offer. Yeah. So that's number 7, and then number 6, define behavior if published stream ends. I honestly can't remember what this is. When the stream ends, should the web player be notified? So this goes back to having events. Player should be notified by a server-sent event. No other way to be informed in simple terms. The consensus was, so this depends on 19, whether or not we're going to do events. I think we can do it. I think events, yeah, goes back to this should just be an event, but events have to be part of V1 if we're going to do it, which then goes back to that. So I will, I'll write, what's the proper way of doing this, Sean? Do I write an email to the mailing list? Asking for consensus? Yeah, okay, I'll do that today.
I mean, technically, I guess you can write the message, then we can see what discussion happens, and then we can be the judge. Yeah,
great. I'm still getting used to all this. So that's fine. I will send. I'll send an email to the list later on today to say, let's get events sorted in the next 2 weeks. We think it's important. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, because again, we requested a session for IETF 124, and so the hope is really that we're kind of doing whatever final edits we have on these ones, because like you said, there's a month and a half. I guess it's the first week in November, where we have this, so like a month is pretty good. All right, so that we went through the whole list of issues. I guess, is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up? All right, great. Thanks for your time. And Dan, we're looking forward to get those PRs going so we can get this rocking and rolling. So appreciate it. Thanks for everybody's time.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.